Hey everybody, this is Faint. I wanted to make this video to talk about this new add-on that I created for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm just going to call it Night Vision Goggles for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's a very creative title. This was not an original idea by me. This was an idea by someone named Barbarossa Krenth. And I found a video of theirs on YouTube, and this person had done some work on night vision goggles using reshade, and I thought it was really cool and clever. And I reached out to them and I didn't get a response, so I figured I would just make my own version and kind of started over from scratch. And this is what I've come up with. So the nice thing about reshade is that you can adjust like every single setting in all of these things, and you can really ramp it up or like dial it down and make it really subtle. So I've kind of gone for subtlety with a lot of these things. And here's one of the things you can adjust, which is the dirt intensity. And I originally had it set all the way up to the maximum level, and I thought it was super cool, but then it got really distracting when I would fly in certain areas, especially really dark areas. So I decided to just dial it down a bit so that you only see it every so often. Like when you see like a bright highlight, it'll show up more. And I thought it looked really interesting. And but you know, you can change it to whatever you want. One of the other settings is under bloom, which is this really cool lens effect. And this is another one of those things where subtlety really paid off. Originally I had it ramped up like this, and I thought it was just like the coolest thing ever. And but then it ended up triggering in certain areas, like when you're flying over cities and stuff like that, and then it got to be a little bit distracting. So I dialed this down again. A lot of these effects have an intensity component and a threshold component, so you can have it be really intense but then set the threshold so that the light has to be extremely bright or something. So you know, feel free to balance those two settings out and set it to whatever you want. One of the effects settings related to lenses is, I'm going to call it like a telephoto effect. They call it chap flare. I don't know what that means, But basically, you can create lens element flares in front of and behind a point light source. This is very similar to like if you pointed an uncoated telephoto lens like from the 80s at a point light source, you would get that sort of effect. And I think it's really, really interesting and neat, but when you're flying in a situation where you have just a few point light sources like this, you tend to get these arrows pointing at all of them. And it's cool for about, 3 minutes. And then after that, you're like, oh, wow, turn that off. So I ended up just turning this setting off completely. But there are a lot of settings for it. So you can actually change the number of elements. Right now it's set to the maximum, but I think if you turned it down to like 3 or 4 instead of, I think it's set to 20 right now, I think it would be maybe a little bit more immersive. And then I would turn the threshold like all the way up and turn the intensity all the way down, just so that it only shows up sometimes. But you can do whatever you want. Someone on Discord that I released this on to get testing, they asked if there was any way of making like a goggles mask or something, and I found this vignette setting. Basically, it has different types, and original seem to work best. And then if you just balance out ratio and radius, you kind of get this these two different effects that I'm demonstrating here. So this radius one tends to pinch it in on the sides, and then this ratio ends up making it taller or shorter. And I'm using a 21:9 screen, and I know a lot of you guys are running 16:9, and I found that this was the best for 21:9, but I also found it to be very claustrophobic, so I ended up just turning it off. Anyway, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I think that reshade is, I'm totally sold on it. I think it's like the coolest thing now. There's a million other little settings in there. I would write down anything that you change, because it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole and change it to the point where you can't get it back to where you liked it, which ended up happening to me a couple times. So I was glad that I had some backups. And what I'm doing right now is the H135 is great because you can adjust the brightness of the displays as well as the brightness of the panels. And here I'm turning off the cabin lights and then turning off these lights that pop up. And here I'm adjusting the panel brightness. I found turning panel brightness all the way to dark and then going back one level of brightness brighter than that was perfect. It seemed to be like a good way of seeing the buttons, and it balanced it out with the brightness of the screens themselves. It's been a lot of fun making this. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from the people I've shown it to so far. So let me know what you think. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. If you guys have any comments, post them below. Otherwise, I'll just see you next time. Take care.